go.
Yeah, I'll speak and then you see it. Sure. So we're about to make a siyum on the third tractate in Shas. Rabbi Shabbos Eiruvin, which is considered Ani, one of the three hardest, most difficult tractates, Eiruvin and Nida and Yevamis. And firstly, it's interesting, the name Eiruv, the Rebbe's father, Rabbi Yitzchak, explains that Eiruv, concept of Eiruv, Eiruvei Tchumen, the idea is to extend the boundaries of holiness outward, to extend it outward. And that's the idea of merging, of bringing chesed and gevura, kindness, which is the essence of holiness, giving, kindness. Gevura is the source, Elokim is the source of all the negativity because of the concealment of Hashem, that creates all the negativity. So the idea of Eiruvei Tchumen is to mix the two, to bring the two, to extend, to merge Chesed and Gevura. And what's the numerical value of Chesed? Do the math. Chesed is 72. That's Ayin Beis. From Eruv. Ayin Beis is 72. What's the numerical value of Gevura? 216. That's Reish Yud Vav. And that's the word Eruv. And the word Eruv, you have the Ayin at the beginning, you have the Beis at the end, because you want to surround the Gevura. You don't allow the Gevura to be negative, you surround it with the energy of Ayin Beis, of Chesed, and that's how you merge the two, that you elevate, that there shouldn't be any conflict. So you bring the Gevura into the Chesed. The Eruv Tchumen, you extend and you bring the Gevura into holiness. Now, it's interesting that the most discussed concept in Shas is the concept of carrying on Shabbos. You basically have a whole tractate dedicated to it. Tractate Eiruvin, the first two chapters, Mavish, Gevaya, Pasei Berois, talks about Mechitza, what's called a Mechitza, what's called a wall. The next three chapters, Siyum Eiruvin, Misha Sheitzu Yudachrim, Kesed Ma'avrin, talks about Tchum Shabbos. And the final 5 chapters, Hadorim Anochri, Chaloim, Kesed Mishtatvin, Kol Gagos, talks about the Eruv Chatzedus, Shutufim Mevois. The last chapter, Hamaitzi Tefillin, goes back to Hitzah, to carrying, and then things you're not allowed to do in the Beis HaMikdash. It's the most discussed thing in Shas. It's the most discussed in the Rambam. You have 11 chapters dedicated to the whole concept of carrying, and a Shulchan Aruch. You have over 60 simanim that deal with the whole concept of Eruv, Shitufim Mevois, and carrying. And according to one of the main reasons why we do muktzah, why you're not allowed to touch muktzah, is because you may come to carry. So then add all the laws of muktzah. And we see, what is the opening line of Shabbos? The opening discussion is carrying, which is the last of the 39 categories of work. And it's a malacha gerua, and yet that's the whole theme, the most discussed concept in Shabbos, in Shas. Because really that captures the whole theme of what Shabbos is all about. There's the famous medrash that the Apikoros, the Min, asked Rabbi Akiva. God practices what he preaches. Hashem practices what he preaches. How could he give rain on Shabbos? He's causing grass to grow. He's watering the grass. You're not allowed to water grass on Shabbos. You're not allowed to grow on Shabbos. So Hashem gives us a Torah. He doesn't keep his own Torah. So Rabbi Akiva answered, because it says in Shabbos you're not allowed to carry from a private place to a public place. To Hashem, it's his world. So it's a private place. So he's not carrying. So it's very, what's Rabbi Kiva answering? Okay, he answered one of the 39 categories of work, but he asked him about watering the grass growing. What does that have to do? What does Zeriya have to do with carrying? So he answered, Hashem is not carrying, because for him the whole world is his Rishus HaYachid. But we see clearly from this Medrash, that's really the whole theme of Shabbos. The whole theme of Shabbos is that on Shabbos we celebrate, we recognize that this is Hashem's world. Because what happens every single Shabbos? Shabbos is not just commemorating something that happened 5,781 years ago. What happened during creation happens each and every week. Hashem creates the world in 6 days, and on the 7th day he rests. He withdraws, his energy withdraws inwardly. That happens every single Shabbos. And that's what a Jew celebrates, and that's what a Jew, by keeping Shabbos, we're saying that Hashem not only is constantly creating the world, Hashem is running this world. It's Hashem's world. So when you realize that it's Hashem's world, that it's in the private domain, that it's in Hashem's world, then in Hashem's world, that's the whole point of Shabbos, to recognize that everything that happens in this world, when grass grows, it's Hashem making the grass grow. It's not that it's just a natural event, Mother Nature. Mother Nature is just a description, it's not an explanation. What's happening is Hashem is doing everything. That is the whole theme of Shabbos. There's no problem with grass growing. It says when Mashiach will come, when a Jew will come to pluck, by mistake, a Jew will come to pluck a fruit on Shabbos, the fruit is going to yell, it's Shabbos, don't touch me, don't pluck me. So when the whole world screams and says that that Hashem is running this world, it's Hashem's world, that is Shabbos. The problem is that we forget 6 days a week we work, and 6 days a week we think that we're the machers, we're the movers, we're the creative ones, we're movers and shakers. Shabbos, we have to rest, to acknowledge and to testify that Hashem constantly creates the world, and it's Hashem's world, and that's... So the whole prohibitions of Shabbos come from this idea of carrying. And that's also the idea of Tchum Shabbos. Every Jew, we all very familiar, unfortunately, very sadly, we all became very familiar with the concept of quarantining. It never happened in human history. And by the way, there's no scientific justification for what's going on. It never happened in human history that when there's an illness, you quarantine healthy people. It was never done because scientifically it doesn't work. There's no reason to quarantine healthy people. You quarantine sick people. You quarantine elderly people. But you don't quarantine healthy people. You don't quarantine children. It was never done in human history, and there's no scientific justification for it. But sadly, we all became very familiar with the concept of quarantining. That's what we do every Shabbos. Tchum Shabbos, you're quarantining. Why are we quarantining? Because Hashem is quarantined. Hashem is Yachid. Hashem is sitting alone. There's nothing else besides Hashem. So on Shabbos, a Jew quarantines with Hashem. Us and Hashem. We're alone together. So this is the whole theme of Shabbos, the whole theme of now we come to the conclusion of it. And it talks about things in the Beis HaMikdash. The Mishnah, the last Mishnah says that if you find a dead mouse, a dead rat in the Beis HaMikdash, you have to get rid of it. You can't have impurity in the Beis HaMikdash. Not allowed to allow impurity in the Beis HaMikdash. So the question is, how do you get rid of it? So we have an argument. Rabbi Yechon ben Bereika and Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yechon ben Bereika says, get rid of it immediately. How do you get rid of it immediately? The Kohen doesn't want to touch it, because if the Kohen is going to touch it, he's going to become impure. He won't be able to do the service. So what does he do? He takes his sash, his gartel, one of the 4 clothes of the Kohen, the avnet, and he picks it up with the avnet and immediately runs out and removes it from the Beis HaMikdash. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yechon ben Bereika. Rabbi Yehuda says no. Don't do that. Why? Because if you do that, you're going to add to the impurity. Not only do you have a dead mouse, a dead rat, now your clothes, the avnet, his gartel also became now impure. So what are you doing? You just brought into the Beis HaMikdash another article of clothing, another thing of tumah. You added to the tumah. It's not so smart. What should you do? Take your time. Go find a plier. It's made of wood, not metal, that doesn't receive impurity. And go pick it up, and then pick up the rat. Tongues, yeah, use your tongues, and then go pick it up and remove it from it. Even though while you're looking for this tongue, the dead mouse, dead rat is sitting there. But better do that, let it sit there. And while you're searching to find the tongue, then go add impurity of making your avnet, your gargul. And then the Mishnah concludes, Rab Shimon said, wherever the rabbis gave you permission to do something, it's from you, they gave you permission. They only allowed you because of Shavuos. So what's Rabbi Shimon saying? Very cryptic. So the Gemara, this is the conclusion. The Gemara says, what's Rabbi Shimon saying? What's Rabbi Shimon referring to? What's he talking about? So he says, he's referring to what we learned earlier in the tractate. We learned that if a person goes beyond the quarantine, goes beyond the Tchum Shabbos, the 2,000 amalek, a little more than 3,000 feet, even if you take one step beyond it, that's it, you're stuck. You can't go back. The rest of Shabbos, you can't go anywhere because you passed the quarantine, you passed the limit. Shimon says, no, you could go back. Why? Because when they measure the Tchum Shabbos, 2,000 amo out of the city, however it's measured, when they measure that, they have an insurance. They used to make it, they used to minimize it by 15 amos.